Hi there, I'm going to be making another video about Tricolor mouse genetics. It starts with the A-locus. That's what all colors are based on. These aren't all of them, but these are the more common ones that are typically associated with tricolors. Start off with agouti. It can be two capital A's, or it can have a smaller a. This means that it's two copies of agouti or one copy of agouti and one copy of black, because agouti is a dominant mutation, and then black is just two small a's. With black tan, the tan belly is dominant over black, so it can have one copy of black tan and a copy of black, or it can have two copies of black tan. But this is what it looks like with two copies or one copy. And the tan belly is even dominant over agouti. So while the black top is recessive to agouti, the tan belly is dominant over the agouti belly. You can also have other mutations not on the A-locus, like you can have chocolate, or the B stands for brown in genetics, or another common one is blue. The D stands for dilute. And then moving on to the C-locus, there are 5 alleles. One is wild type. It's dominant over all the other mutations. If there's a copy of a big C present, the wild type dominant mutation, there will not be any C dilute colors. All the other ones are recessive. And albino is typically the first one that most people associate with C-locus dilutes. There is Siamese, has two copies of C-CH, which stands for Himalayan, but most people just refer to this allele as the Siamese allele because Himalayan is also a variety. It can get a bit confusing. C-E stands for extreme dilute. In the US we call this beige. In the UK it's called stone. And then last off we have chinchilla. It's one of the weaker dilutes. On black it doesn't affect anything, but it will dilute yellow pigment. So on agouti you will get silver agouti. Sometimes on black it can cause the pigment to lighten slightly. Not anywhere near as much as chocolate, but it might look like a poor black. And then on agouti it appears more of a grayscale almost, and it removes all the yellow from the coat. These mutations can also interact with each other. The first 4 or 5 varieties I just showed was what it looked like when they were homozygous. When they're heterozygous, you can get something like Himalayan, which is half albino and half Siamese. Or you can get like mock chalk, also known as cremino. It's half albino and half chinchilla. There's a lot of varieties, so I'll just skip to some of the other colors now. You can also have Siamese on blue. It's called blue point Siamese. Or you could have Siamese with chocolate as a chocolate point Siamese. And all of that is important because tricolor has to be based on C dilutes, but splashed does not work on albino, so you cannot use albino specifically for tricolors. Any other combo would work, like any of the Siamese, mock chocolate, Himalayan, even silver agouti would work. You could technically have a tricolor with black or sepia with chinchilla, but the way that tricolor works is that it needs splash to revert the C dilutes on these colors. So on a silver agouti, it would revert it to agouti, or on beige, it would revert it to black. As you can see in the genotype, the first two are AA. There's no other mutations, it's just black with beige. So when you undo the beige, you still have the black left underneath, and that's what color the splashes would be. The same would work for Siamese. The splashes would be black because there are no other mutations. And if we move on to blue Siamese, blue point Siamese, the splashes would be blue because when you undo the C dilutes, you still have that blue base, that 2 copies of A with the 2 copies of D for dilute, blue. And the same would also work for chocolate. A chocolate Siamese would have chocolate splashes because it only undoes the C dilutes, not any other mutation. It's very heavily linked with the C-locus. And you also need splashed, which is a dominant hypostatic allele. Hypostatic just means that it's part of epistasis. Epistasis is a circumstance where the expression of one gene is modified, example, masked, inhibited, or suppressed, by the expression of one or more other genes. So, it says one or more other genes. In this case, with the C-locus and the splash locus, we're just going to have those 2 genes. So we're going to focus on the 2 roles that those 2 play, which is epistatic and hypostatic. Epistatic is a gene that determines whether or not a trait will be expressed, which would be the C-locus. And hypostatic, genes whose expression is affected, blocked, or masked, are hypostatic to the interfering genes, which would be the splashed locus, or the splashed mutation, because it is blocked and reliant on the expression of C dilutes first. If you don't have a C dilute mouse, it's not that it can't genetically have the splash mutation, it just will not show. It's a big difference between it being recessive and it being dominant. It can still be carried in a sense that it doesn't show, but the mouse still has the mutation and can pass it on to the offspring. Tricolor also needs pied. The pied will cause the splashes to clump up and cause the larger splots of color, as opposed to the smaller ticked colors that you're used to in splashed alone. And then moving on to splashed and how it's made exactly. So what splash will do is it will add little ticks of color, sort of like this, into the coat. I don't have any splashed emojis, so I'm just going with this for now. And it only works on C dilutes, so it could be on Burmese, which is half Siamese and half chinchilla, or it could be on Siamese. It could even do beige, or mock chocolate, or criminal. So you can have other colors as well. Like if you add blue to light mock chocolate or criminal, you will get a black-eyed silver. But if you do this, then the splashes won't be black, they'll be blue. And if you were to add in pied, it would cause those splashes to clump up, and you would have larger splotches of color as opposed to the small ticks. And it can cause some splashes to be left over. The selection for crisp edges and larger clumps of color is something that you have to select for. But that is, in essence, how tricolors are made. C dilutes, splashed, and pied. So just how any C-dilute base can be used for tricolor, it doesn't affect blue or chocolate or yellow or any other mutations that you add in. Those would be added on top. So while a tricolor Siamese would look like this, the base has the shade with the black spots added in with the white. You could also have a blue Siamese, and it will also dilute the splashes because they're not C-dilutes. Hopefully that explanation helped. I may make some more videos in the future. Just depends on when I can get around to making them. Hope this helped.